Hi everyone, this is Steve Krause, and you're watching this video because you're in 328 online for winter 2016. Welcome aboard. I just want to record just a short introductory video just so that you can put a voice and a face with my name a little bit, and to walk through a couple of, just to highlight a couple of things on the syllabus and the course description. You should read the syllabus, of course, and read through the course and the schedule and introduce yourself in the space below, in the discussion space below here. But just a couple of things to make sure that we're all on the same page. The course is, as you'll see as we get through, is a writing intensive course. In some ways, even though it's a 300 level course, I would say that it probably involves a lot more words on the page, electronic page, that is writing, than some of the other courses that I teach. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about various issues of style and genre. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about peer review, and we're going to spend a lot of time talking about revision. The first couple of assignments are already spelled out pretty clearly in this, on the schedule. The second part of the semester after winter break, I'm still developing, but I have a pretty good sense of what that's going to be too. But if you look at the schedule and the current assignments that are available to you, that is pretty much what we're going to do, and you can pretty much lock in terms of a schedule that that's what it's going to be about. Interestingly enough, the class is not as much about technology as it once was. For those of you who've taken courses from me in either Writing for the World Wide Web or Critical Digital Literacies, those courses have taken on in some ways a lot of the technical burden, if you will, of the class. But obviously we're still going to be working with blogs, we're still going to be working with Google Docs, we're still going to be working with YouTube, we're still going to be analyzing web pages, so the technology is kind of weaved in with the style. Read over the stuff about online attendance. It's really important in an online attendance and sort of online responsibility, really. The thing about an online class is I like teaching online classes for the same reason why you probably like taking them. It's like you have a lot of flexibility in terms of your schedule and where you're at. Like I'm in my office, my study at home. This is pretty much where I teach the class from. And I teach the class a lot of times in my pajamas. You might be taking the class in your pajamas or whatever. And so it offers a lot of times in terms of flexibility and things like that. However, there's a couple of important issues about that you got to be aware of. Um, Part of it has to do with participating in the class online in terms of a particular schedule. And I'll talk about that in a second. But the other thing about online classes is it provides you a lot of flexibility, but it doesn't mean that you have less presence in the class, and it doesn't mean that you're not doing stuff like you would in a face-to-face class. The challenge is that I can't necessarily keep track of you the same way that I would in a face-to-face class. Like in a face-to-face class, if you had all shown up in the same room and somebody was missing, I would say, oh, well, they're gone today, and I would just mark them absent. And then I usually have an attendance policy that says you can't miss more than 2 weeks of a class and still be expected to pass it. In an online class, it's a lot harder for me to kind of figure out because I can't really look into the computer to see if you're actually on the other end looking at me. Do you see what I'm saying? So read over the attendance policy, because basically what it says is that if for some reason you disappear from the class for a couple weeks at a time and then pop up again, and by the way, this has happened before, you're probably not going to pass it. So you got to make sure that you're participating in your online presence and your online attendance is there. The other thing about online attendance is that I can't really be responsible for your technology, right? So in other words, I can't really come to your house and fix your computer. I can't really make sure that your internet connection's working and so forth. So one of the burdens that you have in an online class is you have to be responsible for this. So in other words, it's not just an issue of showing up to Prairie Herald or wherever I'm teaching to take a class. You have to show up to your computer that you're looking at right now to show up to a class, and only you can be responsible for that. Okay, so again, there's a lot of flexibility that comes with online courses, but there's a lot of responsibility that comes with online courses as well, especially in terms of technology and all that kind of stuff. Under no circumstances can you pass the course if you do not, if you have some sort of technical issue and you're just gone for a couple of weeks. And I will never accept my computer is broken as a legitimate excuse for not turning something in. Okay. This leads me into the online participation part of it. If you look at the schedule page, and I'm going to look at that page right now on the course website. So if you look at the Course Canvas website, it's just the first page, the home page. I lay out the calendar there. You can also follow it through the module section and through the assignment section and whatnot. But if you look at the course website, you'll see, for example, that today, the first day of class, January 6th, it says due Wednesday, class intros, what you're looking at now, and set up WordPress, okay? And then you'll see for next week, due Monday, class intros and set up WordPress, blog prompt number 1, and so forth. Now, what I mean by these due dates is that sometime on the date that's described as the due date, you need to complete whatever that activity is about. Okay, it could be in the morning, it could be at night, but it has to be on the Monday or the Wednesday. That's typically the days in which these things are due. In other words, this is not a class where you can do everything on a Saturday. This is not a class where you can sort of skip around and do things whenever you want. This is you have flexibility in terms of when within a given day you complete an assignment, and you can actually complete most of these assignments a little bit early if that's part of your scheduling issues too. But you have to complete within that particular window. Does that make sense? In other words, some of you might be looking at this video on January 6th at first thing in the morning. Some of you might be looking at midnight. That's fine as long as you're looking at it on January 6th. If you're looking at January 8th, you're late. Now I understand that that could be the case because when the course first gets started, people get a little bit behind and things like that. But that's okay. But for the rest of the semester, you want to stay as close to on schedule as you want, or as you can. This is really important because writing is a social process, and the only way that a writing on an online course in writing can really work well is if we are engaged in that process of writing together more or less or closer to the same time, right? So in other words, if everyone was taking this at their own pace, which some online classes are like that, it wouldn't really work really well. I mean, how could you do peer review? How could you do responses and things like that? So you have to sort of like complete the assignments when it says. So when something says due on a Wednesday, that means you want to complete those discussion forum points or blog posts or whatever on a Wednesday. When it says due on a Monday, you want to complete those things by the end of the day on that day. Okay. Two last things I'll mention about participation. First off, if you want to get an A in participation in the class, and you can read about the process for that in the syllabus, the bottom line is that you need to begin participating on the day when these things are due routinely. So that would be a Monday or a Wednesday typically. Okay. If you don't do that every time, you're probably not going to get an A in participation. Doing that every time will help you go a long way towards getting an A in participation. The second thing is that you should expect to spend as much time online in this class than you would in a face-to-face version of the class, maybe even more so because we're not speaking with each other, we're just writing things, which means that you should really expect to spend at least 3 hours a week engaged in this forum on canvas.image.edu. I know what you might be thinking. 3 hours a week? Seriously? Yeah, seriously, because the thing is that, again, if we were meeting face-to-face, we would be together, give or take, about 3 hours a week, okay? We're not meeting face-to-face. We're meeting throughout the week at different times, but we're meeting in this interface. So that means that you and I will be here together virtually about 3 hours a week. How you divide up that time is totally up to you. Some people, I would encourage you that what I usually try to do in terms of teaching the class is I try to touch the class every day. I try to log into it at different times during the day just to see if something is new and updates and things like that. I wouldn't encourage you to necessarily, if you want to spend a particular time, like say, okay, I'm going to spend this time on Mondays and Wednesdays engaged on the class, and then maybe touch it a little bit, on Tuesdays and Thursdays to see if anything's new. That's fine. You don't have to be here more than 3 hours a week, but you have to be here at least 3 hours a week. I try not to engage in the class on the weekends. That's why you see the schedule is set for Monday through Friday, because I can't be online all the time. You don't want to be online all the time and so forth. But the point is that you've to do well in the participation aspect of the course, and really all the aspects of the course, you need to schedule time to be engaged with it, with the course on a regular basis. That's really the biggest shortcoming, I think, for online courses, that sometimes online courses can be a little bit like joining a gym or something like that. People join gyms with the best intention. They're going to go work out every day. You see that around New Year's Eve where people are resolutions and stuff like that. And what ends up happening a lot of times is that people start off doing great about that, and then a week or two in, the gym gets kind of empty, and that's that. You don't want that to happen with a course like this. You don't want this to become out of sight, out of mind. Okay, so that's why I emphasize this part of it so much here at the beginning. Now, the rest of the course and the syllabus and things like that, I've written this all down. You all know how to read. This would be a fine opportunity to read through those materials and ask questions below. Everyone should at least introduce themselves. Hi, how are you? This is who I am, things like that. And ask questions that you might have about anything having to do with the course and the requirements this semester that you have now, and building off of each other's questions as well. Okay, here we go. We're off to the races. I'll see you online.